We're getting closer to the November election. 21 News is your place for politics, and we're spending 5 minutes at 5 with the candidates ahead of Decision 2025. In Trumbull County, independent candidate Duane Hennen is running against Democrat incumbent Ronald White Sr. for Warren Council's 7th Ward. Mr. Hennen joins us now. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
So you're new to the race. Can you share your background a little bit, your experience, and what will you bring to the role if elected?
I was a businessman. My wife and we actually had a mattress store for quite a few years in Pennsylvania. And, I've also been a pastor. So I come in with a heart for people, just wanting to help out our communities and make it a better place to live.
When you look at why you're running, what are some of the goals at the top of your list?
Probably some of the top goals would be the safety of the communities, because I've seen a lot of the Warrens have kind of gone downhill a little bit over the last several years. Doesn't seem to have any improvement. Just business growth in the 7th Ward. We've seen companies like Sparkle Market leave. Obviously Kmart has left in the past. Now we got Rural King there. But we're looking just to, kind of increase the economy there, bring some good things to the community, safety, and just the growth of more population there too.
Yeah, you mentioned the economy. Inflation's a major problem impacting
Yes.
so many communities.
Yes.
Is there anything that a council person like yourself could do to help?
I think the biggest thing is really trying to just get businesses to come, and that's where the safety issue comes in. Businesses look for a safe place to have a business, not for a place that's going to get robbed, not for a place that's going to, have some, gunshots around the building, and that's what we've seen in our area. So I think the number one thing is safety. Safety for our kids. We have communities where kids just, frankly, aren't safe. The west side of Warren has really been a place that, we've seen murders, several just real close to our house, probably within a mile of my house, and to me that's a very big detraction for any business for economic growth.
How would you how would you target the safety?
Honestly, I think, for years they've talked about getting a few more police officers, but I think the biggest problem was instead of getting the police, they gave themselves a raise. And to me, it's like as a business owner, I look at it as if you want a raise, you have to do something to earn the raise. And frankly, I just don't think the raise was earned. I think they should have brought police officers in rather than that.
Yeah, let's touch a little bit on property tax. Everybody's talking about it. It could go on the ballot. Where do you stand in terms of abolishing property taxes or looking for that change maybe to the system?
Yeah, I think, obviously money has to come from somewhere, correct? Sure. It doesn't just come out of the sky and fall in your lap. I get the issue of property tax. I get both sides of it. And frankly, I think, could you do without the property tax? Yes, but it'd have to come from somewhere else. So, where's the money going to come from? Right. So you have to have a balancing system there that's going to say, I can't just cut something off and not have it. Then you got to look for some of the waste that maybe we're having waste in different areas and start trimming off the waste and say, is it possible? But I think that needs a better look at it than just saying yes or no on that. You really have to take a deep dive and say, what are we going to do instead of it?
Right, a lot of discussions.
Yes, there's a lot of discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think on the ballot it's a yes or a no. I think it's like you got to really know where it's coming from.
On the topic of housing, are you expecting any new proposals for housing options in Warren as the employment picture expands with Kimberly-Clark and the other nearby economic investments?
I would think so. Because that will bring in some more people, I think. And I think the housing, the 7th Ward's a little bit different because the 7th Ward is pretty run down, especially when you start talking apartment places. I think that's a starting point, is trying to upgrade some of these areas, maybe even hold people accountable that aren't really doing the repairs that needs done, and try to make it a little bit better place to live. But I think that is something we have to look at. Housing, we're going to need it for these new employees. If they're hired from here, obviously they might already have a house, or they might be renting and looking to buy a house. I think that'll change the market a little bit when you start adding more businesses.
Finally, what makes you stand out against your opponent? Why should voters vote for you?
I think number one, it's what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. He's been in for the last 3 terms. Really, there's been no change, maybe downhill change. Other than that, there's really no change. And I think sometimes a fresh person, a fresh perspective is what's needed. Maybe different viewpoints on certain things. City council is not, and a lot of people think city council makes great big decisions. It's really not. It's just the governing body for the city to help, direct things a little bit. It's not like we're making great legislative changes. So I think it's a fresh face, a fresh look, a different perspective. As a pastor, I care for people. So I want to be in it for the residents. It's not about the paycheck. Matter of fact, I'll give it back to the residents, somehow. We're not looking to make money off of it, and it's not a political step for me to get up the ladder. That's why I'm not in either one of the parties.
Right.
I'm for all the people, not just for a certain group of people. I'm for everybody.
Duane Hennen, thank you so much for joining us here on 5 at 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.